Disney princesses may be a globally recognised phenomenon, but what about the other Disney ladies? Are they just as influential? Well, no, because it's the princesses who are shoved in our faces. But should they be just as influential? Hell yes! The non-princess Disney babes are among the most interesting characters I've ever come across. Without the pressure of having to succumb to the princess formula, being the underdog, finding their Prince Charming, wishing on a dream, etc, etc, they're allowed to be free, wild and adventurous, with no castle in the sky to distract them from the fun they're having. So they're all great. Well, no, there are some really disappointing efforts in there. But for every boring, pointless Disney girl, there are at least 3 feisty, argumentative, fun-loving, and all-round enjoyable Disney girls. And we're kicking off with one of my favourites. When we first meet her, she's blatantly not paying attention to her lesson, and it's not long before she wanders off and starts having adventures. Seriously, within the first 3 minutes, she's up and about and doing something. How very refreshing. Alice's main character trait is her curiosity, and she's definitely at her most interesting when she's discovering something new. She's fascinated by everything she finds in Wonderland, and it's so fun to watch, especially as it gets her into trouble most of the time. Equally as enjoyable is watching her get herself back out of trouble. She's a bright girl, as well as adventurous, and is very good at assessing a situation to find a solution. Even when the situation seems crazy or even impossible, she's able to work with it. She shows a nice progression of character, starting off a little phased by the strange environment she's found herself in, and sometimes letting it get the better of her, almost to the point of giving up entirely. But she eventually musters up enough courage to keep going, and even starts to adapt to the weird world. By the time she's reached the crazy Queen of Hearts, she's experienced enough of Wonderland to really fight her own corner. Alice is one of my favourite Disney characters of all time, and that's not because she's painted as a perfect flower who can do no wrong. I like her because she's ditzy and weird and has a bit of an attitude. I like her spirit and her drive. I like her because she can do wrong, but has the wherewithal to admit it and try and make it right, or at least make the best out of a bad situation. She's flawed, intentionally flawed, and that's what makes her one of the best.
Well, I suppose you call me a genus, humanus, Alice.
Peter Pan had 2 very strong female characters, both with good story arcs and interesting personalities. One was slightly weaker than the other though, and I'm going to start with her. Now, I want to make one thing clear from the start. I do not think Wendy is a weak character. She is very fun to watch and has a lot of good moments. The 2 that stick out in my mind are her relationship with Peter, which is beautifully played, and her going mental at the mermaids and nearly knocking one of them out.
You dare to come near me again!
Wendy! Wendy!
The conflict she is faced with is also handled very well. She really doesn't want to grow up, but is facing the inevitability of leaving her childhood behind. It's wonderful watching her struggle to find a balance between keeping her childlike sense of adventure and learning the value of responsibility. One moment she's happy and joining in with the fun, the next she's advising Peter on his behaviour.
Oh, Peter, do be careful!
Then she's getting irrationally annoyed because she's jealous. It's just unfortunate that Wendy was put in the same film as Tinkerbell because she fucking steals the show.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, so we'll know where...
This is one hell of a good character. She's bitchy, she's conniving, she's jealous, she's absolutely awful to Wendy, easily swayed to the enemy's side, she's selfish, narcissistic, and she has the most unfeasible dress I've ever seen. Seriously, how is that not showing off more than it should? She could almost be classed as a villain, were it not for her devotion to Peter and the Lost Boys and her ultimate redemption. She's a very emotionally driven character, and even though she can't talk, you know exactly what she's feeling through her body language, expressions and attitude. Hell, she glows red when she's angry, that is awesome! If I had to nitpick, it would be about her aforementioned redemption. Her problem throughout the film is that she's jealous of Wendy, and it's built up that that will be the issue to be resolved. But it isn't. She only accepts Wendy because she gets her ego stroked by Peter. That's not really a redemption, that's just her hearing what she always wanted to hear. That being said, her story is still interesting, and it's great that she would throw herself on a bomb to save Peter's life without a moment's hesitation. Overall, she's a fantastic character, and still one of my absolute favourites. It may seem weird to say, but I think having a female dog character helped the Disney writers create better female human characters. Now, before you start ranting in the comments because I compared women to dogs, hear me out. By making Lady a dog, they weren't confined to human traits, conventions, or etiquette. This meant that she could be over the top, playful, mischievous, even naughty, vicious, and a little bit dumb, and yet still be endearing. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if you told me she was an influence for later Disney women. She's an overall well-meaning character and fairly courageous. She saves both the fish and the baby from the Siamese cats, and later helps save the baby from a really evil-looking rat. Her relationship with Tramp is played interestingly. When they first meet, there's not even any hint of a romance. It's just him taunting her about how much she'll be neglected once the baby is born. What a nice guy. They only get to know each other later on when he finds her after she's run away from home. Their relationship develops very organically from there. They have real conversations about real things, learn about each other and the worlds they come from, and when they do fall in love, do I even need to tell you how that happens? It's very sweet and believable. The next princess we will be discussing, is Aurora, aka Sleeping Beauty. Excuse me while I go load both barrels.